There's a specific kind of pain that only creators know. It's a quiet, cold ache that settles in your chest when you look at what you just finished, a video, a painting, a business plan, and then you look at the vision that was in your head. They don't match, not even close. In your mind, it was cinematic. It was moving. It was perfect. But on the screen, it feels thin. It feels amateur. It feels like a pale imitation of the greatness you see in others. You look at your favorite creators, the ones with millions of views and flawless delivery, and you wonder, what do they have that I don't? Most people interpret this frustration as a sign of failure. They think the lack of quality in their work is proof that they lack talent. They assume that if they were meant to do this, it would come out perfectly the first time. So they wait. They wait for inspiration. They wait for better gear. They wait for the perfect idea to bridge the distance. But they're missing the most important psychological truth of the creative life. The only way to reach the quality you desire is to survive the quantity you fear. Let me tell you about a legendary experiment in a pottery classroom. It's a story that explains why your view drop, or your creative block, is actually your greatest opportunity. On the first day of the semester, the professor divided his students into two groups. He pointed to the left side of the studio and said, "You are Group A. You will be graded solely on quality. To get an A, you only need to produce one single pot. But that pot must be flawless. It must be a masterpiece. You have 3 months to plan, design, and execute one perfect piece of art." Then he turned to the right side of the room. "You are Group B. You will be graded solely on quantity. I don't care how your pots look. I don't care if they're lumpy, lopsided, or ugly. To get an A, you simply have to produce 50 pounds of pots. If you turn in 50 pounds of clay at the end of the term, you succeed. If it's 49 pounds, you fail." The semester began. Group A sat in a circle. They researched ancient Greek amphoras. They drew sketches. They debated the perfect temperature for the kiln. They spent weeks terrified of touching the clay because they didn't want to waste their one shot at perfection. They were paralyzed by the weight of their own expectations. Group B, however, was a scene of chaos. They were throwing clay onto the wheels immediately. They were laughing as their pots collapsed. They were making small pots, big pots, thick pots, and thin pots. They didn't have time to worry about quality because they had a scale to tip. They were focused on the weight, not the beauty. At the end of the semester, the professor gathered all the work, and a strange, counterintuitive truth emerged. The most beautiful, professional, and technically perfect pots didn't come from Group A, the group that spent months trying to be perfect. They all came from Group B. While Group A was busy theorizing about perfection, Group B was busy learning how the clay actually felt. They had made every mistake possible. They learned how to fix a wobble. They learned the exact pressure needed for the rim. By the time they reached their 50th pound, they had accidentally stumbled into greatness. They had closed the gap, not by thinking, but by doing. What the pottery students experienced is a phenomenon known as the gap. You have the taste. That is why you started. You have spent years consuming great content. You know what a good edit feels like. You know what a powerful sentence sounds like. Your taste is 10 out of 10. But your talent, your technical ability to execute that taste, is currently a 3 out of 10. When you look at your work, your 10 out of 10 taste is judging your 3 out of 10 talent. It's a mismatch, and it hurts. But here is the catch. Your taste is the very thing that makes you an artist. If you didn't have the taste to know your work was bad, you would never have the drive to make it better. The frustration you feel is not a sign that you should quit. It is a sign that your standards are high. The gap is a physical distance that can only be crossed with a bridge built of bad work. You have to be willing to be a fool. You have to be willing to post a video that only gets 10 views. You have to be willing to publish the 50 pounds of lumpy pots before the algorithm or the audience can see the masterpiece hidden underneath. In Stoicism, we talk about the internal citadel. This is the idea that your worth is tied to your effort, not your outcome. When you miss a few days of posting and your views drop, your ego takes a hit. You feel like the world is moving on without you. You feel like a failure. But a Stoic looks at the view drop and asks, is the quality of my soul tied to a digital graph? The answer is no. The algorithm is a fickle god. It rewards consistency, yes, but it doesn't define your value. Your job is not to win the algorithm. Your job is to be in practice. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote his private journals while leading armies in the mud and rain. He wasn't writing for a target audience. He was just practicing being a better man. He was throwing his 50 pounds of clay every single morning. He understood that excellence is not an act, but a habit. If you are waiting for the perfect moment to return to YouTube, you are waiting for a ghost. The perfect moment is the one where you decide to be bad on purpose just to get the gears moving again. So, here's your directive for day 6. Stop looking at the quality table. Stop looking at your old high-view counts. Stop mourning the momentum you think you lost. Momentum isn't something you have. It's something you generate through friction. Go to your studio. Turn on the camera. Don't try to make the best video on the internet. Just try to make 1 pound of clay. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with the work you are currently avoiding. You don't need a miracle. You don't need a viral hit. You just need to keep your hands on the wheel. The masterpiece isn't found in the planning. It's found in the 50th pound. Go with your hands dirty. Close the gap.